of Zoltho's conversations. Today I have with me Arunima Kumar, a Kuchipudi dancer, choreographer and artist who started her journey in Delhi in India and now runs one of the biggest institutions for Kuchipudi in the UK. Arunima, pleasure to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
So you started your journey in Delhi.
Yes.
And if I can start by asking, how did you start with Kuchipudi? Was that a conscious choice, or you just happened to learn that form and you kind of continued with it?
Well, I was very young. I was just 7 years old. I believe I was always dancing. So my mother thought that I do have a talent. And she tells me that she went to see a Kuchipudi performance by my first guru, who then became my guru, Padma Bhushan Srimati Swapna Sundari. And she fell in love with the dance form, and she said, whatever this dance form is, I want you to learn that. So, well, in theory, I should have learned Kathak because I'm a North Indian. My father's from Bihar, my mother's from UP. But because she saw this dance form and was totally mesmerized, I started learning Kuchipudi from my first guru, and then, of course, continued.
And the affair has continued until
Yes,
now.
absolutely. Absolutely. And then I, in a few years, I moved to Padma Shri Guru Jai Ramarao and Padma Shri Rao. And, I've literally grown up with them and grown in my dance form with them. So that is how the journey began. But then, of course, the more important part is how it has sustained and how it has grown. So I owe it to all my gurus for giving me this gift of Kuchipudi.
Amazing. And how did you happen to end up here in London?
Well, I first came to, I always wanted to study in America.
Okay.
So I wanted to do my undergraduate in America. And my father, after I finished my board exams, I did well. So as a gift, he sent me to America. And on the way back, I had a stopover in London.
Right.
So for 3 days, I had a cousin who showed me London, and I just fell in love with the city. And I said, actually, I'm not going to America. I'm going to London. So then I started applying to London. I did my university in Delhi from St. Stephen's College. I studied economics. And then to do my master's, I came to LSE.
Okay.
And then I went back to work in India, but then I got married and came back. So somehow, again, the affair with London has been always there, in and out. So it's kind of a love-hate relationship. I came to stay here for just 2 years because when I got married, my husband promised me that I'm only staying here for 2 years because I said I'm never staying anywhere other than India because I'm an Indian dancer and I love India.
Yeah.
So he said, yeah, just 2 years. And I remember I took, the phone contract. I never took a phone contract. I took a prepaid card.
Okay.
I'm going back in 2 years.
So why would I?
Yeah, exactly. So everything was like 2 years. And then it just kept, he kept postponing it. And of course, I've been here 14 years. Right? So yeah. So I don't think I'm going back now, but who knows?
Amazing. And I loved how you spoke about your gurus in the beginning. And you yourself are a teacher now, so you have a lot of students and you've been training from the beginners to quite advanced levels. What changes have you seen?
So I don't think, people these days become gurus very quickly, right? But I have seen my gurus and I have seen, how much knowledge they have, what level of depth that they have gone into their art form, and then how much they give generously to their students. So the concept of guru itself, I would say, has changed. So I never thought I was ready to teach.
Right.
It was only, one of my students who became my student, one of my audience members who watched a few of my performances, and she, after every performance, would come and ask me, can you teach me this dance form? And I said, I'm not a teacher.
Right.
I'm still performing, I'm still a student, so I'm not ready. But she kept, kind of following me. And then, I gave up, and then I said, okay, come home, I will teach you.
Yeah.
And that's how the journey began. And then I fell in love with teaching. I kind of tried to inculcate the same values I had learned from my teachers, that it's not just about, that 1 hour concept that you come home, you look at the time and you say, okay, the clock is ticking, you come, you start teaching and you go. It's a whole value system, the Guru Shishya Parampara. And I think for me, that value system is what I wanted to give people. So my first student here in this country was Italian. I owe a lot to her because kind of she taught me how to be a guru. And then, yes, from there the journey continued, and I started teaching children because I wanted to, impart Indian culture, the best of Kuchipudi that I had learned, and this amazing, ancient Indian dance form, its philosophy. And that's how the journey began, and then it has just grown. I still don't believe in a factory model. I still don't believe that, when people say, how many students do you have, how many centers do you have? I don't work like that.
Right.
Because for me, every student who comes in, it's a relationship I form. And it's a relationship for life. Even now when I go to India, I meet my gurus.
Right.
And every phase of my life, my gurus have been part of it.
Yeah.
So, that is who a guru is. So for me as well, I wanted to have that extension, in a Western environment, which is so kind of black and white, and it's kind of structured. So I wanted to fill that up with that value system, and fortunately I have. So I take very few students every year, but every student I take, I give my 100%, and I demand 100% from the student and the parents. So that is how the journey began. But having said that, I do have about 60 students now. I'm very proud of each one of them. I do have about 6 to 7 centers, including centers in Poland and Brazil and in India. So it has grown, but it's been organic. It's not like I want to start with a factory and have like hundreds of students worldwide. Not at all.
Yeah. Okay. And from the student's perspective, because you've trained and learned in India, and you see students who are training here who are Indians and non-Indians as well. So from their perspective, how was the field different, or like career opportunities or anything like that? Like how does it differ from India to UK, or is there any difference or not?
Of course, there is a complete difference. So I think the first difference is in the learning process itself. So when we are learning in India, right, we have the benefit of everything around us contributing to that aesthetic of learning.
Right.
So you can, you're crossing a temple, you're hearing the bells, you're seeing a cow, you're seeing a priest, you're seeing color, you're seeing women dressed up, holding pots. Whether you live in a city or in, anywhere, you are exposed to the entire culture.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're here, you're not necessarily passing through a temple, or when Diwali is there, it's not like every house in the city is lit up and there are fireworks. You have to kind of go somewhere to find out about it.
It's like the Trafalgar Square Diwali, and that's it.
Exactly. So I think the learning process therefore is very fragmented, and it is kind of removed from this whole kind of system that contributes to it in India, right? We just take it for granted. Everywhere there is the culture. But here you have to kind of make an effort, right? And I think, so for example, even the puja that we do at home, the rituals that we follow at home are different because we're not doing such elaborate rituals. So our children therefore are not exposed to all of that. We don't speak as much Hindi or our own language, we speak more English. So all of that contributes to the learning. So that itself is different. Then as they grow, again in India there are many opportunities, every festival brings with it huge range of stage performances. Whereas here, again, you need to find those opportunities. So on both fronts, and as I said earlier, the structured system, like when we used to go to learn, in our Guruji's house, if you've not learned it properly, he would say, first hour, just practice, and when you're ready, you come to me. Maybe it would take you a year to learn this piece, but we'll see, when you're ready. But here, again, it's more like a course structure, a diploma program. I've learned this is my grade. So again, it's more structured. So I'm not saying something is good or bad, but it's quite different, and therefore the teaching process also needs to align to that. And then finally, I would say, that they all learn all of this, but then where are the children, going to go with this whole learning process? So that, of course, is again quite different.
And when it comes to any artist's life and their career, every single choice that you make has a huge repercussion, whether you see it immediately or whether you see it down the line. And I know you have made a lot of choices, and you've always chosen Kuchipudi. Haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us that story about how you chose Kuchipudi over I think you were into sports as well, if I'm
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're right. I never thought of it like that, but somehow I did. So I was, in terms of my journey, I don't think that this was, this is what I wanted to be. That, oh, I'm going to grow up and be, this amazing dancer. I always loved dancing, but, I had different plans. I was working, I studied economics, so therefore I worked in banks, I worked in consulting firms. I had a great career, and I also danced. I also did sports. I did pistol shooting, and I was thinking about it during the Commonwealth Games this time, that when I was going to go for my trials for the Commonwealth, because I made it to the nationals. I had this dilemma because I had my economics exams and versus going for Commonwealth, and I said, okay, well, I have to study. My father said, I think you should study because you can do this any other time, but I never made that decision. So I studied, and then I came here to study again at LSE. But when I was working, I just said, I'll take a year out and I'll work, and I'll go back to my dance. I'll just dance my heart out. I'll do as many performances. I'm in London, I haven't danced properly, and I really want to do this. And then I started doing it, and one performance led to another, and then that's it. I never went back. So I remember my boss, he was completely in shock, and he kept my position as director for quite a while till he, till I said, I'm never coming back, and pick somebody else. So yes, I picked Kuchipudi. And I also remember Maharaji, Pandit Birju Maharaji, when he had invited me to one of his festivals, and I said, Maharaji, I'm getting married and going to London. And he said, अच्छा ठीक है, you're going, लेकिन ये remember, ये याद रखना कि कला ही साथ देती है, कला को कभी नहीं छोड़ना. So that for me has always been there, that art is your best friend, keep it for life, because no one can take it away from you, right? So I guess that's why I've always picked Kuchipudi, because it stayed with me, it's my best friend. So yes.
Awesome. And with regards to the choices that you make in your choreography, because you do choreograph quite a lot, both ensemble pieces and solo pieces, and you've dealt with quite heavy themes. Correct me if I'm wrong. And if I remember, one of your themes was about domestic abuse, and about like mental health issues and all that. Could you talk about that?
So I think that if I dance because I think that is my space to express who I am and what I feel, and I want to be free in my art. And if something affects me, if I'm not able to find answers to it myself, I throw it back to the audience, because this is my conversation. My art is my medium of conversation with my audience. So I feel that is why. So I was working, I work in dance therapy. I used to work in Tihar prison, Asia's largest prison in India, and I went into the prison and I was doing a workshop, and then I came across this lady who had written these poems about her experiences in domestic violence, and it really kind of affected me, because she came from a very well-to-do family. She was very well settled financially, in a good state, but she suffered, and she had to take that decision of taking, her husband's life, because she had to save herself. So in self-defense, she did it. So for me, domestic violence, I always thought it belongs to a certain, difficult situation. Maybe in a slum and somebody's getting drunk and hitting you. No, it's everywhere. So it really affected me, and the her poems were beautiful. So I picked those, and it was, Dr. Vartika Nanda, who had compiled a lot of these stories into a book called Tinka Tinka Tihar. So I spoke to her and to the Director General of Prisons at that time, Bismillah, and we brought together, we took this book, and I said, can I interpret it through dance? So I did that. First, I worked with them on their poems. So there was a poem called Char Diwali, which means, in these four walls. Right? And so she says, well, I'm in these four walls, but even the world is four walls, right? I might be free in theory, but if I have surrounded myself with stereotypes of problems or issues, or if I'm imprisoned in my thoughts, I'm also not free. So she says, maybe I'm in the prison and I'm free, but what about you? You might be in this outer prison and not free. Right? So again, those poems are so beautiful. So I first worked with them on it. And when we started working, I said, they're creating, the way they are doing this is fabulous because this is their writing and they are dancing to it and they are dramatizing it. So even people who saw it were so impressed that we said, let's take it out to a mainstream auditorium. And so we got permission to perform, their pieces in a mainstream auditorium, and we did it at Habitat Center, surrounded by 200 police officers. Because if we were one ran away, it would have been crazy. But no one did that. Everybody was just so wonderful and so happy to perform. I made them sing, I made them dance, I made them play drums. So we created a performance out of it. And then I brought it to London, and I wanted to create work on one of these poems, and I called it Bandini, which again means prisoner. And there again I asked, who is the prisoner, right? And this piece, I was fortunate to have Shobna Jaising as my dramaturg. And I also took a contemporary dancer and a Japanese drummer. So I'd seen this, amazing program by samurai drummers, these Japanese drummers, and I was taken in by that performance. I said, I have to use these drums in my performance. So again, I took a Japanese drummer and I worked on this, and I worked on different versions of Bandini. So one was where I had mentors, Chitra Sundaram, she mentored me on that project, and that I presented in Chennai during the Margam, and everybody said, no, Chennai, you have to present proper Kuchipudi. First of all, you're not going to get a prime slot because you do Kuchipudi, so you're going to get the morning slot, and how can you do this kind of a piece in the main season? You have to do Kuchipudi. And again, like as I said,
so much.
Rebel. I said, no, this is what I'm doing. Many people said, we're not coming to your program because this is not correct, And I said, why? This is my society. I'm expressing my art. I want to do it. So we did it at, in fact, the Bhawan in Chennai, and it was very well received, and it was done in Tamil version, and we also had a singer, and it was very well received. And then so that piece then developed. So that was one of my pieces. Another piece is called Burnt, because I went to this hotel in Delhi and I saw this painting where a woman was going to jump into the fire, which was the practice of sati, right, in India, and it was in the main courtyard, and people were looking at it and kind of in awe of it, and I felt it's such a horrific kind of past. How can people display it as a something in a hotel in such a frivolous way? And so I asked somebody about it, and they said, well, that's correct. A woman whose husband dies, what else should she do? Again, it really shook me.
Somebody literally said that.
Yeah, that's fine. What else should she have done? Isn't it better for her? So it really shook me, and I really came back thinking, what should I do with this? I read a lot about sati, I read a lot about these practices, and then I realized it happened in Egypt, it happened in Greek past. So there were lots of places where this was happening, because people just felt, okay, woman is man's possession, so man dies, woman dies, right? Women should also just get buried with him, or should just die with him. So I created a piece on it, and it was called Burnt, and it was presented at Oxford Fire Station, and I used an opera singer, Linda Shanson, and I made the piece so horrific because I said, I want everybody watching the piece, I want to ask my audience, what do you feel? Do you think this is what a woman should succumb to or go through? And so everybody kind of literally cringes in that piece, and at the end they all come out thinking like, I'm completely crazy, but they have that it shakes them up, and people have actually written to me that you've actually brought this to life, and it's really shaken us. So imagine if this was actually happening. Imagine the plight of a woman actually jumping into that fire while everybody else is chanting, almost like your possession. See, if it was done out of, like there were, when wars happened, and instead of being raped, the women kind of emulated to protect their self-respect. That's different. It's a choice. But this is something you're forced to do. It's out of compulsion. It's because you're a man's possession or his property, and so you just jump into the fire. So it really affected me. So we created that piece again. So again, something which affected me. So things that affect me, I feel like this is a conversation I want to have through my work with my audience. So it's not like a planned thing, but that's how I feel I choreograph. I also choreograph on classical repertoire, re-looking at pieces, rethinking about them. I love, discovering more about our mythology or our scriptures or our Purans and even our gods, our religion. I'm rethinking, in terms of movement. If I like a movement or if I like a piece of music, I pick it up rather than just being limited to the repertoire I'm given. That is amazing, and that I want to.
It has its own.
Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful, and that will continue like a river. But these are bits that I want to add to my journey.
Absolutely, yeah. And I feel like art can be such a powerful medication for society. Like how you said, people were really shaken. Like whether it is like one person who's affected by the work that you put out, or 100 people, or 1,000 people, still that change is seen and it has that ripple effect. But in contrast to that, within the art field itself, you see so much of a, because we're all fighting for the. At the end of the day, it also becomes a matter of survival for each artist. How do you deal with that?
Yes, you're right. I mean, we are all trying to get a piece of that finite amount of the cake, right? Whether you're big or small. So it has been quite a journey in that sense as well. So when I came to London, I started from nowhere, right? I was recognized in India. I had Yuva Puraskaar. I had enough awards, enough performances. I traveled the world with ICCR. But when I came to London, I had to audition, I had to start again. So that in itself was a little bit of a step back for me. But I said, let's start
It's just
with
the
that.
system, so just let's go with it.
And then yes, I felt that there are institutions or there are people who kind of become institutions, and you have to work with them and work with their culture and work with their value system if you want to survive or if you want to make a name for yourself, and then you have to get aligned to this camp versus that camp. And again, I chose this profession because I wanted to do this, not because this is the only thing I could do. I could have been a banker, very successfully or any other thing, but I chose to be in art because I want to experience art. I want to share my art. So I wanted to be free. I did not want to belong to this camp or be part of this culture of appeasement and alignment, and I wanted to have a voice. I wanted to be free of judgment. So for me, it was a struggle to break away, to start my company on my own with no support, because also I was told that, look, if you leave or if you're not in any of these camps, then you will be nowhere. You will be destroyed, or you will never come up, because this is a whole ecosystem. You have to be part of it, or you're kind of separate. And I said, it doesn't matter. I will start from scratch. Let's see where it goes. I have nothing to lose, And that's how I started my company with a few people. Wrote my first arts grants application. I was told that you write your arts grants application, but it will not go through because the same people will never let it go through. I never let it bother me. I went through. And I got it again, thanks to a lot of people at that time. And it was amazing because that gave me a lot of faith in who I was. And my art form. And I think just, brick by brick, I built it up. But you're absolutely right. If you don't have the courage and you are not, set up to fail and rise again, it is difficult for you. Because I am that kind of person, that if I fall, I try to rise again. I take that failure as a learning for the future, or that setback as a learning for the future. For me, my integrity is very, very important in what I do. So I was able to do it, but I saw a lot of other people breaking down. I saw a lot of other people fall apart. It really affected me. I tried to support them, but I was also new, and I still have those friendships. But yes, I do have that regret that I think our world of culture, which is so where we are doing such wonderful work
Yeah.
in this ethereal space where we want to share,
Yeah.
some joy with people. Why are we giving grief to each other? Why
Yeah.
are we giving envy to each other? It doesn't work. I mean, I've had fabulous relationships over these past years, and I really feel that if you really invest in good relationships in art as
Absolutely.
well, it works.
Absolutely.
Right? So you have to hold each other's hand in times of trouble, and then move forward, because I think that can really help. But yes, mental health is a significant issue, and as the pool gets smaller, insecurities will rise, and
Yeah.
our mental health needs to be protected more and more. It will only happen if we support each other, and we don't mistrust each other.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of mistrust. Just trust each other, trust the process, and
Yeah.
move forward.
And rightly, as you said, especially now after the pandemic, I think every artist would have faced that.
Yes.
And you said you felt like, what is my role in the society? What am I offering? Like when society is really in the darkest of place, what exactly does an artist do?
Yes.
You do online performances, you give joy to people. I think that is the ultimate thing that an artist can do to, give that sense of hope and joy to somebody else. Yeah. And
But
I think
who is giving joy to me? At that time I really thought I have to come to this class every day and make this work, make this amazing, make this happy, but who's doing that for me, right? It's like, oh my God. So if we have each other, it will work. If we don't, then unless you are, super fueled, it doesn't work. So I think that for me, because, as artists, like when I quit my job and I started off as an artist, it was the hardest step. Because I don't have next day, I don't have a place to go to. Right? I'm still at home. Everybody's going to work, or somebody's going to school, somebody's going to university. I'm going nowhere. Where am I going? Right? So I have to build each day.
Yeah.
And I remember I was on the flight with one very senior musician, a legendary musician, and he also said the same thing to me. And he was performing at the same festival as I was in Goa. And he said, even now we have to call people and call agents and create work. Yeah. So an artist's entire journey is like that. It never stops, right? So every day you create, but you have to therefore be, therefore you need to have a very strong support system to keep your mental health intact, because otherwise it's really hard. Like sometimes people judge. And another thing I would say is that as a dancer, you're never, you're there's always something you're not doing. Right?
Yeah, you're never satisfied.
It's like, no, not just myself, but my audience, right?
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
or the people who judge me. For example, like, oh, she is very good in classical, but she can't do contemporary. Oh, she's just doing contemporary these days. She's just, not bothered about classical, not good at Kuchipudi. Oh, she does like, urban Kuchipudi. I heard that. Like, I was like, what is urban Kuchipudi?
Yeah, that's the first time
I mean, like, am I supposed to village Kuchipudi? Like, what is this, urban Kuchipudi? So, so I think there's always a judgment. It's never enough.
Right.
It's like, oh, she does mostly, government programs. Oh, okay, no, she does only corporates. So, or she just does, these kind of mainstream work. She doesn't do community. Oh, now she's just doing community. Forget about it. So it's just
constant.
Yeah, it's constant. Whatever you do is wrong.
Absolutely.
So, or it's not enough. And frankly, earlier I used to really get affected. I used to be like, I work hard every day. I practice, I work, I try and create an amazing show for all of you. And how can you just continue to judge? What have I done wrong?
Yeah.
And I remember when I got pregnant, oh, now she's pregnant, abhi to over. Oh, abhi to she's married, abhi to going to London. Over. Like somebody I remember 5 years ago, she's like, oh, now you have had a child, so now you're old, so you know what, now it's different. So there's always some bias.
Something What has really helped me as an artist is to have a very clear distinction between your creative part of you and the professional side of you. Because if you mix the two up, you will never be able to push your art further.
Yes.
So the minute I started saying that, okay, am I performing? Am I exhibiting? Am I publishing something? Keep all that aside. What am I giving out today in terms of creativity? Did I write a new poem? Did I write something new? Did I do something new? Did I paint something new? Then I am still successful. you know, and then you look at the other part of it and say, okay, now what do I do with what I have created? Because if you start the other way around, you will never be able to create anything solid, is what, like, I have personally kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, because I have different roles now, I'm also a teacher. I feel like, I started teaching children because I felt like I want my daughter to have my culture, to have, and continue this legacy. And also to, make it more professional, almost create like a conservatoire for Kuchipudi. How do I do that in the UK? So that was my whole thought process, and that is how I've tried to always keep a certain standard, that whether a 4-year-old performs under me or an 85-year-old performs under me, please carry the same ethos. So that is very important. Again, as a choreographer, yes, you're creating, you go into the space with a blank sheet of paper, you have a thought process, it works, it doesn't work. I remember I learned a lot with Shobna when, in the studio with her, and she would say, okay, this is one line, try it, like I walk on stones, but I am not one. That was one of the lines from the poem that I worked on in Bandini. And, she said, think about yourself as a stone and try different things, roll on each other, break, be strong. What are the values that a stone, brings to you? And so that was the choreographic process. The whole week we were just looking at that one idea.
Wow.
And reworking it and reworking it. We didn't go with like a text or a thought process, So you're right. You come, when you're creating, you just create. When you are directing, you just direct. When I'm teaching, I just teach. So in everything, yes, you go professionally, you plan, like I always plan and I go and I, have some milestones in mind. But then when it comes to creativity, you give an honest approach to it. I worked with Baluji, all, his Innovision Blind Orchestra, learning people with learning disabilities, the Commonwealth project where it was a historic performance with mass participation from so many people who had never danced. And who think that they could never dance. Mostly people who are on wheelchairs or autistic or people who have hearing impairment. So we were exposed to so many types of I would say abilities, and it was incredible that when they could dance or like all of us or everybody danced together, what it created. The magic of what it created. It was impressive. Like they all performed last week at the opening ceremony, and to just watch them, it brought tears to my eyes because it's just so beautiful. That is what art is. Right? It's for everybody. It's for everybody to experience. It's for everybody to be free. And really, we are really fortunate that we have that gift. And I'm very fortunate that I have that gift. And till I enjoy it, I will do it.
Amazing. So we've come to the final segment now, which is my favorite segment.
Okay.
So I have a bunch of chits here. Random words. Pick any and just talk about it.
Let's see. Digging deep. Let's see what it comes up. Humdrum. Okay, well, humdrum of everyday life, right? It's like we also have to go through that, right? It's not always glitz and glamour. I remember, I was performing, and in the middle of my performance, I had a costume change. And my other costume, I realized the pleats were not very well ironed. So I quickly asked for an iron, and I was ironing. And then these few audience members were passing, and then they had just seen me on the stage as Devi and all of those poses, and suddenly you're like, backstage. You can iron as so this is part of everyday life, right? So you do that. Of course, on stage you are performing, you're a different persona, and you're different. But irons, of course.
That's interesting.
Shall we try one more?
Yeah.
Sleep. Oh my god, I never sleep.
Really? I sleep all the time.
I don't like to sleep at all. Everybody says you have like this, FOMO. Because it's like if I sleep, even if I'm very jet lagged, I will not sleep.
Really?
So I always, I kind of always say life is too short, because many years ago, I had a really severe injury and I was in coma and I almost lost my life. So when I came back to life. It's almost like, oh my god, next time I'm going to be in that position, I need to be able to, say I did this, I did that, I had a good life. So I think from that, I've got this. My daughter has the same problem as me now. She also, loves to kind of go out, maximize the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is something hard to do for me.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Please give me something good, something interesting.
That was fun. I wonder how you picked these choices.
This was from a random Google word generator. So I would just generate the words and I just start writing on it. Yeah. Oh man. Intoxication.
Ooh, what fun!
Oh, as an artist, you're almost always intoxicated.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in the zone of creating. Or even in the zone when you have that idea. For me, I think that is my favorite part. Where I have the idea but I haven't yet started taking action on it. That state of mind, I tell you, it's the most intoxicating space of mind that I have ever experienced. Just like, okay, how can I work with this? What do I do with this? Which form do I do? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, sometimes after a performance, right? Like that moment where you've kind of done it.
Yeah.
And you feel like, yes, I think, that high that you get.
Yeah.
I don't think, you get that in anything. So yeah, that feeling. But I think to be an artist, you're right. You have to be intoxicated. No sane person will be an artist.
The last one?
Okay, let's go with the last one. Ooh, desire.
Ooh.
Okay, of course, desire. Desire is integral to any artist. Without desire, without, that emotion, you are nothing. Whether it's the desire to create, whether it's the desire you show in your dance. I mean, Indian dance is a lot about shringar and desire and all of that. So I think, this desire is very, very important. And also the desire to, just live freely. I think COVID has taught us that be satisfied in what you have. It's not always about desiring, the next big thing and running after something. It's also to just be grateful, to step back, to kind of, have the calm. So I think desire, I would add that to my list of desire, which I didn't have earlier. I was always the person who was kind of, like, yeah, let's do this. But then I think with COVID, you also feel, what, I've done a lot. Let me just take this moment to also, enjoy what I've done. Yeah.
It's like last one. Something interesting and nice
Yeah.
to finish with, I hope. Okay.
Ooh, nice.
Birds. I don't know if I can be philosophical with it.
Yes, be.
Birds. They are like the most common symbol of freedom.
Yes.
And I think when I think of birds, I suddenly remember how often we neglect the most obvious and the most common things around us in life. It's like, so when I was younger, you have the sparrows in India background. Our terrace used to be filled with sparrows, okay? And me and my friends used to run upstairs just to catch those like little birds, like all sitting around, and we'd make them fly and all that. Here, I remember when I go to the park and I look at a bird, I'm stunned. I'm like, oh, look, a bird.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think as you grow older, you kind of stop noticing the most obvious and the most simple things.
Yes.
And one of them are the birds.
And nature, right?
Yeah,
It's
parts
like
of nature.
Because I think, again, as you grow older, you want to be around nature. You want to be around, like I just love sitting down and I love kind of being on the grass or just looking at a tree. So yes, I think that is a very important part of us. But what you've said about birds is also true about dance, right? When you're in India, I remember, performances over there, people will come in and out, right?
Yeah.
It's like they'll come, they'll say, yeah, we came to your performance for like 10 minutes and then go.
Yeah.
So it's taken for granted because it's everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when you're here, you really, like, I love to go and see someone perform. I pay so much money to go and see someone perform.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of dichotomy that when you have something, you kind of don't value it. But then when you don't have it and then have that
like hankering
emotion,
for
yes,
it. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yes, but maybe at the end we will touch upon one more topic.
Please go ahead.
No, I think we spoke about it when we spoke last, right? That I think for me, one thing which I always find very interesting is when people feel like some artist who's coming from India is always held in a higher light than an artist from the UK. And I feel that is very interesting. And again, is it again something to do with what you said, that when you have something, you take it for granted it's coming from somewhere else it's valued.
Yeah.
Because I really don't understand it. People who have worked so hard in the country, developed themselves, made themselves professionals, worked in amazing institutions, got that extra that fabulous experience. Give them that support and bring them to that level. But and of course artists from India are amazing. They have that level of knowledge that I spoke about, which perhaps it does not exist here, but doesn't mean that one is better than the other. So I feel like we at some level have to kind of level that up or balance it out in our own thought process and in our own judgment, because artists here are fantastic. Some of the dancers I see here, even the South Asian dancers, they are incredible. I don't want to take names, but I've seen brilliant Odissi dancers, brilliant Kathak dancers, Bharatanatyam dancers, who are just brilliant, so even Kuchipudi dancers. So I think we have to learn to appreciate who we have and of course give equal status to people who are coming with that set of knowledge. So to bring something more to the table, great, but
but what's already there, enjoy that.
Yeah. Sorry, it just came to my mind.
No, I'm glad you said
about
that.
somewhere in your interview, please put it in. Because I always feel like people, I know, like lots of people often tell me that, especially teachers here, that why is it that institutions will always feel like spend so much money on bringing somebody, but we're right here.
Give us the money. We do that.
I mean, of course, I understand that people might have seen us, but maybe we can create something, new for you or different. But don't always have that obsession with someone.
It's just about balancing.
Yes, it's our own judgment. It's our own judgment, right? Like, I mean, I don't deny that we need research and development. I work with a lot of dancers. We're working on a Kuchipudi course. So, of course, the knowledge they have, I don't have. So, I will give them an extra benefit. But if in terms of dance, the two people are the same, at some similar level, then just because they come from India, it doesn't mean much. Like, I have amazing students of mine who are in Poland, I mean, I value them a lot. They are brilliant Kuchipudi dancers now. And I feel like, yes, look at them. They should be encouraged, right? We are bringing these people up. We are teaching them this, give them that platform, that opportunity. And that is something which I think is lacking in us. Sorry to break from this, because this is really fun and this is really addictive.
Let's do one last one.
Go for it. Absolutely.
You can edit what you didn't like.
Oh no, nothing's going to be edited.
I'm just amazed at the words that you have. Oh, riddle.
Interesting.
Right. Riddle. Okay, my daughter was here, she would have asked you a riddle.
Oh.
I'm not very good at remembering riddles. But I think for me, life is a riddle, right? It's like, I don't know what the next step is. You just tread on thinking, I'm going to go this way, and suddenly it takes you somewhere else. Like, I worked so hard. I remember to study and to be a banker, to be a consultant, and then I just threw it all away and worked in dance. So how, why, how?
It's always a question mark.
It's a question mark. So it's still a question mark. Right?
Life itself
I
is a big
never
question
wanted to move, outside 1 kilometer radius from my house. Right? I said I'm always going to be in this area. I'm not going to move out of the South Delhi. And look where I landed up. Right? So again, question mark. Life is a riddle.
How, why, where, when?
Exactly. Yours.
Okay.
Come on.
Wow, catharsis.
Nice one.
I think any artist will agree, the process of creating is such a cathartic experience. And of late, I know you know that I have moved away from dancing, And for me right now, I think not even writing, just reading is so cathartic. It doesn't have to be a complete novel or a complete story or anything. Even just single lines. I'm very bad at remembering on the spot, but even just single lines which I read, and I just mull over them for like days and days and days, and they change so much within me. And I think that is the ultimate power of art. Each person goes through catharsis every day almost.
Yeah.
Every experience changes you. But at the end of the day, it depends on whether you take that change with you or not.
Yeah.
And if you accept that, then you evolve.
Yes.
But if you have always the choice, you can as well not could be a very significant experience of your life. But if you make the choice to not accept it as a part of your life, you shut your mind and your heart away from it.
Yeah.
It can stay separated from you. But if you allow it to kind of engulf you, it can change you, it can evolve you, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that has always shielded me is that I don't believe in insecurity. I don't believe in envy or ego.
Yeah.
So anything tough happens in my life,
Yeah.
the only one I need to prove myself to is me. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't go through that. What people are gonna think? What is this gonna happen? That's gonna happen. It's just me, and if I'm comfortable with it, it's okay for me. What other people are doing, what is their journey. I mean, I get inspired by them.
Yeah.
I admire people. It's admirable,
Yeah.
but it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So I think in every difficult situation and kind of cathartic situation, that's what I think.
Yeah.
What am I feeling? Like, how is it for me? And how am I going to make myself okay with this? And that's all that matters. So I think that's something that at least has helped me. I don't know how you think about
No,
it.
absolutely, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's who you have. You have yourself. Yeah.
For me, I am interested in what other people are doing, in the sense that I feel I'm curious about, like, one of the main reasons I'm doing this interview series is also because I'm so interested in understanding how another artist thinks, how they feel, how they perceive things, and how their art is formed. Because at the end of the day, that all goes into the art form, right? So yeah, I'm curious.
Because you're right, because as an artist, so many times you face more tough moments than happy moments.
Oh yeah, because you're so overly sensitive also.
Yeah, and you get many more denials and many more rejections and many more no's than yeses.
Absolutely.
So it's a part of life, and it's all right.
Yeah.
It didn't work. Try something else.
I really hope all of you have enjoyed today's episode as well. And as usual, stay tuned for next week's episode, and I'll be back with another artist.
Thank you, Radhika. I think I can talk to you for hours.
Thank you so much. Welcome. I look forward to our next conversation already.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you.
It stays with me, and then I said, how do I work with this? Because I'm an artist, and I want to be a living artist and kind of be free.
Just press record again and see if it starts recording.
It is recording.
Namaste to all of you. Welcome to